Trish, Monster Energy beverage. I think I'm going to just go with the Starbucks.
Okay, well, let's talk about Starbucks. You know, Adam, unlike energy drinks, national regulators, they haven't required posting calorie counts on menus at restaurants, but that requirement actually is coming. Starbucks is the latest chain to get out ahead of these rules. Customers nationwide are about to find out just how many calories are actually in their caramel ribbon crunch frappuccinos, and it's not pretty. Senior markets correspondent Julie Hyman is looking at what effect this could have on consumer taste. You know, Julie, we're here in New York. We have access to these numbers already, but a lot of people elsewhere in the country are about to learn some very not so good facts about the drinks they like.
You know, if you're drinking something called a caramel ribbon crunch frappuccino, you probably already know that it's not very healthy, but just how unhealthy is it? 560 calories in that bad boy, wow. 16 ounces of it, 18 grams of fat, and that's with non-fat milk, by the way, 93 grams of sugar. Unbelievable. The cafe mocha has 260 calories, 8 grams of fat.
Is this like for a normal
34
size?
grams of sugar. A grande, 16 ounces worth. And the iced skinny mocha, if you want to go on that end of the spectrum, is indeed fewer calories, only 1.5 grams of fat. By the way, a cup of black coffee is 5 calories. So if you really want to go low cal, just drink your coffee black. Oh, it's interesting. There was a study a few years ago done by Stanford Business School looking at Starbucks rollout in New York and what happened when you put those calorie counts on the menus. You saw a 6% reduction in calories per transaction, so not huge. It was bigger in food than in beverages, and the more calories you were consuming at once, the bigger the reduction. And also, what's interesting is, if you're a Starbucks and you had another competitor within 500 meters of your store, it actually gave Starbucks an advantage over some of those competitors.
You know, but a lot of companies, they don't like this idea, of course. They don't like the idea of having to post the calorie count because they're fearful that consumers will not buy those products.
Well, at least in New York, it doesn't look like that has been an obstacle. Again, here, it doesn't seem that there are huge shifts in customer behavior, but the Affordable Care Act is actually what has mandated these calorie counts to be posted, and the FDA now is just figuring out the implementation of the rules, like it is for so many other things within the Affordable Care Act. A couple of subgroups in particular have been vocal against this. Pizza chains, Domino's Pizza, because if you think about all of the varieties of pizza, there are a lot of varieties of coffee too, and if you notice on a Starbucks menu, they'll give you a range. So the question is, will the pizza chains give you the range? Will they have to say for each kind? The franchisees have said it's going to be very expensive. Grocery stores as well. You know, they have a lot of prepared food now, and an industry group says it's going to cost $1 billion the first year to implement this.
Wow. All right,
no wonder we have a diabetes problem in this country, Trish.
Yeah, people just need to pay attention to what they're eating, right? Yeah. The question we're all asking, of course, is does this at all affect consumer behavior? Could this affect Starbucks' bottom line? We're joined now by Andrew Mosel, a spokesperson for the New York State Restaurant Association. He says posting calorie count is noble, but places a very high burden on businesses that's just unnecessary. Also joining us, Bloomberg contributor and former Kodak CMO, Jeff Hayzlett. All right, guys, first over to you, Jeff. Is it going to affect what you do?
No, and by and large, that same study, now that was a really good study to bring up. Actually, about 15% of the people actually will make a change in the store, but they will only go to a different item. So they're actually not going to stop buying. They're still going to buy. So they're going to move from, let's say at Starbucks, from that old-fashioned glazed donut, which has 480 calories and 27 grams of fat. They're going to go to the healthier choice, the apple fritter, which only has 400 calories and 20 grams of fat.
Healthier, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, an apple a day does keep the doctor away. So that, we know that's healthier. But that's all they're doing. They're just shifting
behavior, but they're continuing to buy.
But only a small percentage, only 15%. So still, in the end, I think it's still a good thing. I think it's good, the bad, and the ugly.
The more information, the better. But Andrew doesn't agree. Andrew, you think that this is an unnecessary burden on restaurant owners. Why?
Well, we're actually in favor of having as much information for the public as possible. But what we're against is having these myriad of rules in many different municipalities, because it's very difficult, as you mentioned, it costs billions of dollars for people to do these studies and design systems for specific sets of laws. And we're actually looking forward to a national set of laws and been working very close with the FDA.
So you'd like to see nationally? It's just a rule. Every single restaurant has to post calorie count.
Generally, we like these things to be voluntary, but if we're going to have a rule like this, it has to be across the board.
But I mean, what about the deli?
It's not every single restaurant.
Right.
You have to have, I think,
chain.
20
Yes,
restaurants
20
or
different
more.
chains. So that's the big guys. So the little guys are getting by with it. But again, let's point out that Starbucks had an increase in business when people actually posted these calories. So it's actually a good thing. And whether it's the good, I say it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, at least you're educating, and it's a good thing to do. Doesn't mean they're going to change anything, but it's the right thing to do. But it's still difficult. Think about a salad bar. I mean, a salad bar has good choices in it. Exactly. So that's where they're having the problems. That's the reason why they delayed it.
You know, individuals and sort of a little bit of common sense. You know, shouldn't people just kind of have a basic idea themselves? I mean, Andrew, what do you say about that?
Well, I think some items are intuitive, but some items aren't, like some of the things that we saw at Starbucks. Starbucks is sort of leading the way and helping their customers here, getting out in front, and McDonald's did last year as well. And so one thing, I think an actually interesting trend that we've seen is, as another way of putting your point, is people are moving toward healthier options. Those aren't always cheaper options, and they're not always the most low-profit options.
Well, in fact, it may be the opposite, right? That may be one reason why you go to McDonald's. It's cheaper, and a lot of their offerings are high-fat.
But most consumers will pay more money for a more organic item or a healthy item, and they say as much as $2. I know that when I go to the store, I pick out the organic eggs, the organic items.
But hang on.
Mostly to get my family off my back.
But you're a C-suite guy. I mean, what about the average American, you know, who's making $37,000 a year?
I still think if they're given the choice, and it's good to educate them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, let them make the choice. That's up to them. This is America.
But speaking of the average American, too, some doctors have been critical of this because to say that such and such has 400 calories is meaningless to most people. And one of the suggestions has been, say how long it would take you and what you would have to do to work that off.
Oh, come on.
No, but but in other words,
like,
give some kind of context.
Are we going to ask Starbucks to post if you want this Frappuccino?
Actually,
you're going to have to run a mile.
An hour on the treadmill to work it
there's
off.
a big difference, though. If you were to order that coffee every single day, and you go into Starbucks every day, which we know everybody does, that's 5 calories. If you go to the one that's the, I don't know, the vanilla latte, you're going to add as much as 6,000 more calories in a given month.
So it's relative to each other.
It's relative to each other, and so it's really about what you want to do, what your lifestyle is.
Another point is, you know, even if the public is recognizing or seeing it, what are they doing with that information? Which I think goes to your point. There was another study done in 2009 by Yale University that showed that about 30% of people saw the statistics and recognized it and tried to make healthier decisions. But when you looked at those people's receipts, it was almost a net.
So it doesn't really, I mean, it may have a marginal effect on consumer behavior. So it's going to cost the companies a little more to do it, but maybe it's...
Look, I'm still going to go in there, and I'm going to go from the donut to the apple fritter. I mean, that's in essence what
you're an honest man, Jeff.
I'm an honest guy. Look, and by the way, why is it you have the big heavyset guy coming and do these segments? That's what I want to do.
Jeff, we love you. Thank you for being such a good sport. Jeff Hayzlett, Andrew, so good to have you here, and Julie as well.